not years, to come. Chris King, BBC News.
Well, speaking this morning, the Prime Minister David Cameron insisted a lot of flood defence work and more was being done.
But let me be clear, the reason I said that money is no object in this relief operation is because I want local councils and local people to know that the rumours you hear that you might be charged for sandbags, that's not true. That the rumour you hear that councils might have to pay for the military and they won't get that money back, that's not true. I want people to know that the government absolutely stands behind this relief effort, and money isn't an object in this relief effort. Whatever is required with emergency services, Environment Agency workers, sandbags, military effort, all those things will be done in this vital period. I think it's very important people understand that.
Well, let's go to Plymouth and speak to our correspondent Sarah Ransom. And Sarah, as if they haven't had enough to put up with this week, another storm coming in.
That's right, the southwest is getting yet another pounding. That storm that's been forecast is beginning to sweep across Devon and Cornwall this morning. You can probably tell by the way that my hair is blowing and the fact that I'm looking incredibly wet that actually we've had a lot of rain already this morning. We've had gusts of wind already recorded at 51 miles an hour off the Isles of Scilly. And as I say, the rain is sweeping across Devon and Cornwall. There's an amber weather warning out in place for rain and wind here in the southwest. We've already also got a bit of snow falling on high ground. There's been snow reported on Dartmoor and parts of Exmoor too. Now, it's only going to get worse, I'm afraid, because the weather forecasters are saying that the gusts of wind could reach up to about 80 miles per hour later in the day. So far, you can probably see behind me, the waves are looking quite angry here. They will be, I think, whipped up a lot more later on in the day as the day progresses. But it's not just here, it's moving up into Somerset as well. There's a couple of severe weather warnings in Somerset too. So people there watching and waiting with trepidation to see whether the tidal rivers there the levels will rise again and perhaps create even more flooding. And I'm afraid it's not just here, it's moving right across the UK. So I'm afraid it's heading up towards you sometime very soon now. And in fact, that's hail now that we're getting here in the southwest.
And we can see already how choppy the sea is and the sheets of rain spreading out across the pavement behind you. Supposedly people again being warned to keep away from cliffs and the coast.
Absolutely, and those warnings have been going out any time that the winds have been getting up. The Coast Guards and emergency services say please don't come out and have a look, because actually, of course, if you're nearer the coastline or anything like that, you know, you do put yourself and emergency services into some danger. But what we've been hearing this morning in terms of travel disruption, at the moment we've just been hearing that there is surface flooding, so drivers are being told to take care on the roads going around the region, in particular down in Cornwall. And we've also heard that Brittany ferries have cancelled their crossing that should be there this morning because of the atrocious weather conditions that are already hitting the southwest.
Sarah, you look like you need a tin hat to cope with that hail. We'll let you dive for cover. Thank you very much, Sarah Ransom, out there in all weathers for us in Plymouth. Well, let's take a look at this map that we've returned to quite a lot this week. It's an interactive map that's put out by the Environment Agency. You can check it out online if you want to. That's how we're looking at it. And it shows just how flooded parts of the different river systems are. Of course, here we're looking at the Thames, and the more intense the colour, the worse the flooding. So the red areas are the very bad stretches. And as we move west, again away from London, pull out a little bit, you can just see just how many sections of the River Thames go through Reading and up towards Oxford, just how badly flooded they are, with 17 severe flood warnings again today on stretches of the Thames. That's one more than we had yesterday. Well, our correspondent Jenny Hill is in Chertsey in Surrey, and well, you can just see from that garden behind her how bad it is. Jenny.
Yes, indeed. Good morning to you. This is, I'm afraid to say, the River Thames. You can see it started raining here about an hour ago. An inch of rain is predicted here today, and that's why the Environment Agency say this is likely this area, Surrey, is going to be at risk of further flooding as the day goes on. The river is very high here. As you can see, residents are trying to prepare as best they can. Many homes have already been flooded here in Surrey. Many more, it's thought, it's feared, will flood today. It's been a miserable time for so many communities in this part of the world. But I've been out to meet some volunteers, teams of people who've been working around the clock to keep each other's spirits up. Her family have lived here for 6 generations. So when there's a crisis, Anne wants to help, never mind her own poor health.
Because I've recently been diagnosed with a problem, I can't lift anything anymore, so I can't do sandbags. So I thought, well, the best thing I can do is come up here and do tea and coffee.
It's been called a major incident. This charity is part of a major response.
Fire crew asked to go down and assist. They're doing an evacuation by boat.
Joe's evacuated people, delivered medicines. Sometimes it's as simple as giving someone a lift.
My husband's got wages on, so he's carrying on.
The emergency services are doing a fantastic job, and like us and everybody else, they're being pulled from pillar to post, so it's a question of resources.
Not to mention being resourceful. In Staines, when his surgery was cut off by water, his doctor simply moved to a nearby pub.
We can fax scripts through, we can do 90% by over the phone for most patients. But I'm seeing patients who've got nowhere to live, and you don't want to be jingoistic about it, but it is flood stress.
Perhaps it's no wonder we met Kenneth and his son ferrying supplies to their flood-bound neighbours.
Just hope it doesn't come anymore. You know, I mean, I feel sorry for a lot of people that are on this road. You know, the whole life here.
Back in Wraysbury, the food donations keep coming. These volunteers are feeding hundreds of people.
The military are just about to check on boxes for you.
They're also trying to help people like this lady. Her house has been badly flooded.
We're trying to keep a sort of, strong front and positive front, because we're trying to find the positives in it all.
Wraysbury is the place where Christine Keeler
And here, in a village
lived.
overwhelmed by
She was Profumo's diversionary partner
supporting each other.
for a huge chunk of the 1960s crimes.
Well, on this street in Chertsey, the battle to keep the water out has begun. This is called an aquadam. It's essentially a big plastic tube. They're going to be filling it up with water as the morning goes on, and it's hoped that as the Thames comes up from this side of the street, this will protect homes across the road and beyond. But it's controversial because it's effectively cut the street in half. The people who live in the houses between the aquadam and the rising River Thames are understandably concerned about what's going to happen to them. One of them is Sarah Ritchie, who joins us now. Sarah, good morning to you. Why are you so concerned about this?
I think the concern is that the level's coming up behind us, and we've been told that the water will come through our properties and be held back by the barrier.
The Environment Agency say, with respect to your houses, are likely to flood anyway, and that the aquadam doesn't make any difference.
We have been experiencing water levels coming up since January, and we have done everything in our power to keep the houses dry and safe and warm, and they are currently. Actually, what's happening now, in our view, is that any measures that we've taken actually are going to be worthless, because this will essentially back the water up into our home.
Okay, well, let's bring in Alison Baptiste, who's from the Environment Agency. You've heard Sarah's concerns. Their houses are going to be flooded, and in order to save the rest of the street, they're being sacrificed.
The work that the agency is doing here is really to protect all the properties within Chertsey. We're using this form of temporary defence, as we are with other defences, to protect over 1,500 properties in Chertsey and Datchet and so on. We can only use certain defences in certain locations, and this aquadam needs to be on a flat surface of the road. But what we've done before we deployed this is to go to each of the houses on the other side, and we've designed the sandbags. The Gurkhas, the military have been helping us do that, because we're passionate about protecting all the properties within Chertsey to the best that we can. The way the water is coming from the Thames and coming up through the groundwater, this should not make the flooding any worse in these properties. But as I said, we are already out doing the sandbagging and helping these properties as much as we can.
Okay, Sarah, one final word from you. The rain's starting to fall. The Environment Agency tell us it's going to get worse. What on earth is going through your mind right now?
Uncertainty. And I think, people are very frightened when we're uncertain what's going to happen. And I think the lack of information that's come from the various agencies and authorities has actually let us all down.
We wish you all the very best as the day goes on. There you are, an inch of rain predicted to fall, the River Thames rising, expected to remain very high for the next few days. There's a miserable day in store, I'm afraid, for people here in Surrey and, of course, in so many other parts of the UK. Back to you.